Why your best work is losing you money. That tiny adjustment just cost you money. Not because the change was bad, because the project was already finished. The client was happy, the deadline was met, and instead of sending the invoice, you spent another 3 hours polishing details almost nobody would ever notice. Meanwhile, a new lead went cold, a proposal stayed unfinished, and the next paid project never got started. Perfectionism doesn't always look like procrastination. Sometimes it looks like your best work. In this video, I'll show you how the final 5% quietly destroys your profit, how to recognize when quality turns into vanity, and how to ship excellent work without lowering your standards. And near the end, I'll give you a simple rule for knowing when a project is actually done. Perfectionism feels responsible. Perfectionism is difficult to fix because it feels responsible. You tell yourself, I care about quality. I don't want to send something that isn't my best. My reputation depends on this. And all of those things can be true. Quality matters. Your reputation matters. The client deserves strong work. But perfectionism quietly changes the definition of strong work. Strong becomes flawless. Finished becomes embarrassing. Good feedback becomes, they probably didn't look closely enough. The client approves the project, but you keep working. You find one more transition to smooth out, one more paragraph to rewrite, one more animation to adjust, one more color to test. At some point, you're no longer improving the result. You're trying to remove the discomfort of letting it go. That discomfort is expensive. The final 5% costs the most. Most projects follow a strange pattern. The first 80% moves quickly. You solve the major problem, you build the structure, you create the core deliverable. The next 15% improves it. You fix mistakes, refine the details, test the experience, make sure everything works. Then you reach the final 5%, and that's where time disappears. You start comparing font weights that look almost identical. You rewrite a sentence that was already clear. You export the same video 5 times because one cut feels slightly off. You rebuild a section the client already approved. That final 5% can take as long as the first 50, but it rarely creates 50% more value. Sometimes it creates almost no additional value at all. The client may not notice it, the customer may not care, the result may not improve, but your profit continues shrinking. If you quoted $2,000 for a 20-hour project, your effective rate is $100 an hour. If perfectionism stretches that project to 40 hours, your rate falls to 50. If it reaches 60 hours, you're earning about $33 an hour. The price stayed the same, your standards ate the margin. Opportunity cost is the work you didn't do. The obvious cost of perfectionism is extra time. The hidden cost is everything that time replaces. That's opportunity cost. Every hour spent polishing finished work is an hour you can't spend somewhere else. You're not following up with leads. You're not finishing proposals. You're not improving your sales process. You're not creating content that attracts future clients. You're not starting the next project. And you're probably not resting either. This is why perfectionism can make you feel incredibly busy while your business remains stuck. You're working, you're producing, you're exhausted, but most of your energy is trapped inside work that has already been sold. Nothing new is entering the pipeline. Nothing is increasing future capacity. Nothing is building momentum. You're protecting yesterday's revenue while starving tomorrow's. Your best work may be your least profitable. Think about the project you're most proud of. How many unpaid hours went into it? How many times did you restart? How much extra work did you include without charging? How many nights did you keep polishing after the client was already satisfied? It may be the best-looking project in your portfolio. It may also be the least profitable project you've ever completed. That doesn't mean the work was worthless. Some projects are worth investing in. A strong case study can attract better clients. A strategic portfolio piece can reposition your business. Learning a new skill can pay off later, but you need to know when you're making an intentional investment. Otherwise, you'll call every unpaid hour quality. A strategic investment has a reason. You decide what you're trying to gain, you set a limit, and you measure whether it worked. Uncontrolled perfectionism has no finish line. You just keep working until anxiety temporarily disappears, then you find something else to fix. Quality and perfection are not the same. Quality means the work solves the client's problem well. It meets the agreed scope, it functions correctly, it communicates clearly, it reflects your professional standards. Perfection means the work can no longer be criticized, and that goal is impossible. Someone can always dislike the color. Question the strategy. Prefer another style, change their mind later, or notice a detail you missed. You can't build something that no person could possibly criticize. So when you try, you don't create certainty, you create endless revisions. The goal of professional work isn't to eliminate every possible objection. The goal is to make strong decisions based on the client's objective. That's a standard you can actually meet. Does this solve the problem? is useful. Could this be even better? Never ends. Perfectionism often hides fear. Perfectionism isn't always about the work. Sometimes it's fear wearing professional clothing, fear of criticism, fear of rejection, fear that the client will discover you're not as skilled as they thought, fear that the project won't produce the expected result. As long as the work remains unfinished, it can still become perfect. Once you deliver it, reality begins. The client can react, the audience can judge it, the numbers can come back. So you keep polishing. Not because the project needs more work, because you're delaying the moment when the work can be evaluated. That delay feels safe, but it prevents growth. You don't improve by privately polishing one project forever. You improve by finishing projects, receiving feedback, seeing what works, and applying those lessons to the next one. Volume creates data. Data creates better judgment. Better judgment creates stronger work. More output can improve quality. Creative professionals often assume volume is the enemy of quality. Sometimes it is. Rushing everything creates careless work. But low volume has its own risks. When you complete only a few projects, every decision feels enormous. You have less feedback, less client data, less evidence about what actually works, and more pressure to make each project perfect. When you finish more high-quality work, you learn faster. You see which ideas clients understand immediately, which designs convert, which proposals get accepted, which systems create problems, which details matter, and which details only matter to other creatives. You stop relying entirely on personal taste. You start building pattern recognition. That's how expertise develops, not from staring at one project for another 20 hours, from seeing how many strong decisions perform in the real world. The goal isn't careless volume, it's useful repetition. Identify the point of diminishing returns. Every project has a point where additional time produces less additional value. That's diminishing returns. The first hour might solve a major problem. The next hour might make the result noticeably stronger. Later, another hour might produce a tiny improvement. Eventually, another hour changes almost nothing. But freelancers often keep spending time as if every hour creates equal value. It doesn't. Suppose you're editing a sales video. Fixing bad audio creates a major improvement. Removing confusing sections creates a major improvement. Strengthening the first 30 seconds creates a major improvement. Changing a transition from 12 frames to 10 may create almost no meaningful improvement. Your job is to identify which category you're working in. Are you fixing something that affects the result? Or are you adjusting something because it bothers you personally? Those are not always the same thing. Use an impact filter. Before making another change, ask 4 questions. Will the client notice? Will the audience notice? Will it improve the intended result? Would I delay delivery to fix it? If the answer is no to all 4, the change probably doesn't deserve more time. If the client won't notice it, the audience won't notice it, and the result won't improve, you may be polishing for yourself. That's not automatically wrong. You're allowed to care about craft. But be honest about who's paying for that time. If you want to spend 3 extra hours because the project matters to you personally, make that an intentional choice. Don't pretend it's required by the client. And don't let it silently destroy every project's margin. Your personal standard can be higher than the client's minimum. It just can't be infinite. Define done before you begin. One of the best ways to control perfectionism is to define done before you start. Not at the end, at the beginning. Write down what the project must accomplish, what deliverables are included, what technical requirements must be met, how many revision rounds are included, what needs client approval, and what would make the project ready to launch. Now the finish line exists before your emotions become involved. Without a definition of done, the project ends whenever you feel satisfied, and perfectionists rarely feel satisfied. There will always be something else. A clearer definition might be, the page works on major screen sizes. The client-approved copy is included. Every link functions. The booking form is tested. The design matches the agreed direction. The client has approved the final review. That is done. You may still see tiny things you could improve, but the project has met the standard you established. Use time budgets, not just deadlines. A deadline tells you when the project must leave. A time budget tells you how much attention it deserves. You need both. Without a time budget, you can spend every available hour polishing until the deadline arrives. The project still ships on time, but the profit disappears. Instead, estimate how much time each phase should receive. Research gets 3 hours. The first draft gets 8. Revisions get 4. Quality control gets 2. Delivery gets 1. If one phase starts consuming too much time, you notice early. You can ask whether the scope changed, whether your estimate was wrong, whether you're stuck on a low-value detail, or whether you need client clarification. Time budgets create pressure, but useful pressure can force better decisions. When you know you have 2 hours for final review, you fix the important issues first. Without a limit, you may spend those 2 hours adjusting margins. Constraints don't always reduce creativity. Sometimes they protect it. Separate creation from quality control. Perfectionism becomes worse when you judge every idea while creating it. You write one sentence, delete it, rewrite it, question it, open another document, come back, delete it again. The project never builds momentum. Separate creation from review. Create the rough version first, then improve it, draft the page before obsessing over individual sentences, build the full edit before adjusting every transition, develop the working feature before polishing the animation. This gives you context. A detail that feels important in isolation may not matter once you see the full project. It also prevents you from polishing sections that later get removed. You don't need every piece to be perfect before moving forward. You need enough of the project to exist so you can make informed decisions. The final review should be a process, not a mood. Build a checklist you use every time. For a website, that might include test every link, review mobile layouts, check spelling, submit every form, confirm analytics, compress large images, verify the client's contact information. For a video, it might include check the opening, review audio levels, remove dead space, verify captions, watch the final export once. When the checklist is complete, deliver the project. Don't start a new review because you feel nervous. Don't watch the export 12 more times. Don't reopen files without a specific reason. Your system exists to protect the client from mistakes. It also protects you from yourself. A professional process produces consistent quality better than endless anxiety does. Build a later list for non-essential ideas. Sometimes your extra idea is good. It just doesn't belong in the current project. Maybe you think of an additional feature, a new content section, a better animation, a more advanced automation. Don't automatically add it. Put it on a later list. Ask whether the client wants a second phase, turn it into an optional add-on, use it in a future update, or save the idea for another project. This is especially important when the idea expands the scope. Freelancers often donate their best ideas because they become excited during the project. That feels generous. But it can also train clients to expect unlimited strategic work inside a fixed price. Your idea has value. It doesn't need to be given away immediately to prove you care. The 2-deadline rule. Try setting 2 deadlines, an internal completion deadline and the actual client deadline. Finish the project 1 or 2 days before it's due, then use a scheduled review window, not an unlimited review window. For example, the project is complete Wednesday. You review it Thursday morning for 90 minutes. You send it Thursday afternoon. The client deadline is Friday. This creates breathing room without allowing perfectionism to consume every remaining hour. You're not polishing until the deadline. You're completing a defined review. When the timer ends, the project goes out unless there's a genuine problem. Know when excellence actually matters. Not every project deserves the same level of polish. A high-stakes brand launch deserves more review than an internal social graphic. A payment system deserves more testing than a temporary landing page. A legal or safety-related document deserves more caution than a casual newsletter. You should match your effort to the risk. Ask, what happens if this contains an error? How long will this work be used? How many people will see it? How difficult would it be to correct later? How central is it to the client's business? This helps you avoid 2 extremes: careless work on important projects and obsessive work on temporary low-impact deliverables. Professional judgment means knowing when the extra 5% is worth it, not automatically applying it everywhere. If this helped you stop overthinking and start shipping more profitable work, subscribe and watch the next video to keep building a stronger freelance business.